Sanbonani, hello everybody that is watching. Welcome to Thought Provoking Conversations. This month we gave our panel members a very interesting topic: December and January, a month of celebrations, crickets, and cabbages. We asked our panel members to dive into the spending patterns between December and January, asking them the reasons why they think December and January is such a reckless spending time. We also asked them to please give us solutions as to how we can better spend in the future.
Yes, I budget for December and potential January expenditure. Although sometimes things don't always go according to plan, but as a cushioning, I usually just separate some money, put it away for a potential over expenditure and a potential, I guess, miscellaneous spending in December.
No, I don't. I don't. I once did, and it really helped a lot. It really helped a lot.
Not so much a budget. I do, however, have a basic budget where I account for things like groceries, rent, utilities, spending money, and then also like upgrades and any kind of debits I might have. So I don't allocate a budget for it specifically, but I have a buffer budget that I would use anyway.
Personally, I try my very best to, but I do think we should also pay homage to the culture that is December. So there's a difference between being reckless and having fun, but the lines they're blurred at some point. So do I budget? Yes, I do. I try my very best to, and I encourage everyone to.
Well, in the last year, I got an opportunity for me to have some extra change to save. So I'd say yes, I kind of do save.
Yes, we do save for December and January, and we've realized that sometimes we do not do well and sometimes we do well. And also because sometimes we spend Christmas with our families, and sometimes we will go over budget, and sometimes we would not, depending on whether we will be traveling or we will just be spending Christmas on our own.
No, I don't think that December spending is racially related. I believe that it's a financial management issue. Either you don't have the skills or you don't.
No, it's not. It's really not. I am currently I work with all kinds of people at work, and I've seen a lot of unnecessary spending, whether you are black or white, Indian, what. I've seen a lot of unnecessary spending within this month. It's not a racial thing, it's everyone.
Point 2 of the conversation, I think, is family dynamics. We need to be honest about the fact that the family dynamics are not favorable and set out properly due to historical reasons as a people, but this is something that we've kept on going. By this I mean that we know that most of the time in black families, the dynamics are that there's more or less one or two people that are working, making some sort of income. And that is something that we need to just be transparent about. Something that we need to be honest about and not hide or try and figure out in some other way. We need to have an honest conversation to say, in most black households, it is few people that are carrying the budget.
No, I don't think it's a racial thing, because we are all in December, we are all in a celebratory mood. It's holidays. We find that some families even have family reunions. So I don't think that it's a racial thing. It's something that affects all of us.
No. Traditionally, across all countries and all kind of sects, any kind of celebratory portion of culture, the people spend more in general. you go to any Eastern or Western society, when there is any kind of celebration where people are involved in giving gifts or looking better or preparing for a ceremony of some kind, they will spend more in general. Some countries where they are wanting to say, let's say you go to a celebration where you have to look a certain way, with dress up in a suit or a fancy dress. You would spend more in that area just because you want to keep up appearances. In the gift-giving scenario, it's just normal during celebration to spend more in general. So I don't quite think it's a racial thing, but I don't know enough to truly fully answer on the subject.
I do think that white people or people who are more privileged, because that gap it's narrowing. I do think that they have other privileges that would make December, January season a bit easier, in a sense that they would be in professional jobs who would be giving bonuses and 13th salaries. And predominantly speaking, historically speaking, those tend to belong to a certain racial group. So I do think that it's possible, but I do think there are also other factors involved.
I would say no, it's not a racial thing. I really want to believe. I think people who celebrate Christmas with their families, we all go out, and and buy things that we can easily excuse during the year, and we're like, oh, the leg of lamb is expensive, the turkey, no, not now. But I think we do go all out as families in December. And I guess also it depends. I think it's not like a color thing. It is a human thing. I think it's a human thing more than a color thing, and it can be done and in any race. We can all end up overspending and whatnot, because we did not budget well.
Definitely, there's planning that needs to take place, especially around financial management, budgeting. All of those are very, very important. Being prudent with one's finances.
The only thing that can help here is to save. Start saving from end of January. If you start saving from the end of January until end of November, it's gonna really help. I've once did this a lot. Saving in terms of, if you just putting it, even if it's a 200 rand away in a savings account that you're gonna use, maybe depending on your salary, of course. We need to start saving. It really helps a lot. I once did this. With my colleagues, we started a group for groceries, because in December we tend to eat more, if I can say that, because we have got it's ukuhlanganyela kwama families from everywhere. So we find out emakhaya sibaningi, so you need a lot of grocery and sidla unnecessarily. Uvuka nje ekuseni, you want to eat something, sengilambile, I wanna have that and that and that. So I once had a stockpile for groceries. It really helped a lot, because it took me until some of them they finished along June, some of them almost August, depending on how we use those things. But it really helped a lot, saving. And then saving also the amount of money that you save on the side. It helps a lot, especially when you want to, for meat, it also helps. And then for people who drinks, I can say that, who drinks, you'll be able to buy your things on the side, like alcohol, drinks, cokes, and what. You will be able to buy it with the money that you save. Yes, you'll be able to buy that. And then also the other thing is that in January we have schools reopening, so you must buy stationery for the kids. It also helps depending on how much you have, but a lot of people tend to we okay now let me also include myself. We tend to want to make the kids happy by buying them Christmas clothes more than school uniform, more than their stationery. When come January, we broke. We don't have money for stationery. We don't have money for a school uniform. So my take is that we already know that next year it's stationery. So every month it can help that a person every month can start buying small things like the exercise books, the pencils, buy them and put them aside every month, or somewhere along the months just buy some of those few things. They will help. And then the school uniform, yeah, these kids grow. Hey, this year's a kid a uniform that he was or she was wearing last year, this year it doesn't fit. So even those ones, let's try and we can try and buy like a shirt once or twice a year, socks, because especially when they are not changing schools, unless they are changing schools, that's gonna be a different story. So this thing of saving, it really helps a lot. Put something aside, 100 rand, 200 rand, 300 rand, depending on how much you are getting paid every month. Just put it aside. It's gonna really help you in December for groceries, for meat, for drinks, for everything, for transport. It really helps a lot. It makes you stretch towards maybe it can towards the middle of January. It really helps a lot.
Point 3 of the conversation, I think it is the significance of the festive season. As a people, what does it mean to us? Because now, let's be honest, it's become a point of splurging on things we do not have. Whether it be alcohol, whether it be food, whether it be party. And more than often, our counterparts in other communities, that is something that is done, but not to the extent that we as black people do it, and they generally have a higher budget. That's the other thing that we need to be honest about. Are we a responsible society about December as a community? What does December serve? Also, I think also
Like a majority of people get paid on the 15th, the 21st, and the 31st of December, which you all know on those days that's when people are in a mood to celebrate and spend and go out and have fun with family and friends. So I think on those particular days, let's say you get paid on the 15th, just have a budget. Just honestly have a budget and stick to it. Don't spend money you don't have. I think that's the only thing that we will be able to tackle this problem, because it's really a challenge for most of us. So we shouldn't spend money we don't have. We shouldn't spend money we don't have.
So, if you have already budgeted how much you can spend and how much you can't, then any extra buffer you have, you know that is your limit. As long as you get your bills paid immediately, like the first thing that you do is you get your immediate bills paid. Like let's say you put aside your rent, you get that paid first, your debits that are important to you, you get that paid, and utilities. Pay all of those off first, and then set aside the money that you would need for things like food and drink to keep you going. Deal with that first, and then the rest of it will be easier to account for.
I think it's being smart with your money. So the best time to plan for December would be now. A lot of your expenses can be deferred if you do it earlier in the year. So for example, you pay, I'm trying to think, you buy more toilet paper on Black Friday. You're saving like $200-300 or how much ever. you would spend on toilet paper. So yes, you're spending a lot of money initially, that's 600 rand, but it's a 300 rand you don't have to spend in December. So I do think it's planning ahead of time, deferring costs as much as you can starting from September. And that's how I think your salary should pragmatically last until the end of the month.
I think on those days, 15, where people get paid, and this, I think it's tempting to celebrate December 16th, the reconciliation day, even if like we don't fully grasp, and whatnot. But I think we can be very strict on our November salary when people get paid. That's your salary for December, yeah, and that's what we try in our household. That November salary is for December, and we need to manage it well, and we can take from our savings what we've saved for December, and then see, because that's the only way you want to have a January that's not stressful, that's also comfortable,
Haphazard spending in December. I don't. I don't know. There are various reasons as to why people would overspend in December. It's a happier time. People want to make their families happy, so therefore there's a lot of pressure to show up for people, even though it might be financial straining in January.
What can I say? It's both ways. Both ways. Yeah, it's both ways. People tend to ignore the things that they know, that December and January, it's just 2 months, and it can seem like it's 6 months after you have finished your money. It can seem like it's 6 months. So yeah, I can say we tend to ignore those in those 2 months we spend more money.
I think it's both. It is ignorance and financial illiteracy, because now, for instance, for an example, it's something I've seen. I've experienced that. You find that there's Tulane. Tulane has or earns, say, 15,000 a month, and then in his company they would get a certain check. So you find that in December he has more money to spend. And then there's me, Uhlengi, where I earn about 5,000 rand. Now, I can't spend as much as Utulani does, So these are just things we must be, we should keep in our minds, that you can't spend money you don't have, or spend as much as the next person. You don't know, maybe that person has been saving, or maybe they have a certain check, as I said, so you don't know. So it's just ignorance. It's just ignorance most of the time, and financial illiteracy. It's both, I'd say.
That's a tough question. So, my personal experience says ignorance is bliss. You don't know you're spending money, so you don't know how much money you've spent. Therefore, it's not really on your mind. And if you are making smaller amounts of transactions instead of large lump sums, then you tend to spend more. This is supported by the fact that microtransactions are the most popular and most lucrative form of payment since the invention. This being small amounts of transactions that are harder to notice. 30 rand here, 25 rand here, 100 rand here, 50 rand here, 25 rand there. It's easier to spend that than, let's say, I want to spend 300 rand in one go, 400 rand. It's easier to spend 10 times 8, 80 rand, than it is to spend 800 rand. So it's a lack of keeping track, I would say. Ignorance is bliss. That's part of it. Financial literacy, I think most people, especially in a country where you go from hand to mouth very easily, they know they have to spend it in a certain way, but it doesn't hit them as hard because they are more worried about the immediate problem instead of worrying about the future issues, which is understandable.
This thing, money will come back. Ignorance is bliss. I do think it's likely. I do think it's possible. I do suffer from it. But I think we also need to bear in mind that at some point, some people are so financially stricken or struggling that they tend to just be like, whatever. I may as well just spend and not look at these SMSs. I'll sort it out. So we have to be cognizant of that. But yeah, it's really dependent on the person. And one thing that I've learned when looking at January is it encompasses everyone. We have people on the lower rung of the economic society, lower class, working class, who are feeling it and who are also not feeling it. You get people in the middle class and in the upper class. So it's not a universal, it is a universal struggle.
It would be financial literacy. It would also be treating December as any other month. So making sure that the necessities are prioritized, and as well as I think what would be very important is also budgeting.
Again, the only thing we can do is to save, and don't spend money on unnecessary things. There are things where you see that I really didn't need to spend that much money on that or that. So it's just making sure that we don't spend unnecessarily, and make sure that we have a budget and then we save. That is the only thing I think can help us.
When it comes to the conversation around what do we actually need to be talking about as a black society in terms of the issue we have around December and January spending and budgeting, these are the items that I think we should be speaking about. I think the first item that's critical, and obviously something that is very obvious, is budgeting. These are the people that actually are the people that are responsible for upkeeping of households in the way that the dynamics of black families is set up. So these people actually need to speak about the fact that these people actually need to have financial training or some sort of financial education. I think that is very important. From the points that I've raised, so we have a very unique makeup as a society. We have limited resources in terms of what we have available to us as a people, but at the same time we have the highest expectations of the festive season. So what then needs to be done? I think those are the conversations that need to be debated and started. And for me, as a suggestion, I think one is to reinvent December to be about family time again, because we find that a lot of the contributors are actually not there for a good time. Primarily, they are there to rest. These are the people who go out and make money. They are there to rest. We have an opportunity to reinvent December again and make it about family time. So cutting, and actually living within our means. Financial literacy is very important for everybody in the family. Transparency. I think transparency and honesty. The people that are actually making the money need to be transparent about their finances to a certain degree, because the people that are on the receiving end have a tendency of thinking there is more in a situation, more and more. Just because you have a certain idea of where somebody works and the sort of position they hold, now you think that well never runs dry. That is a tendency within black families, and that's a conversation we really need to be having about budgeting. That transparency needs to be there, but the honesty as well. The families need to be honest. You cannot have a festive season when the resources are just not available. It's just a sacrifice that needs to be had. You cannot have a spending festive season. So I think those are the things that we need to work on as people and be honest. December just needs to be redefined for us to actually be in a position where where January is not a sink or swim situation, because every year January proves to us that we are struggling as a people. We're struggling to make ends meet because of December.
You know, tracking, spending tracking, something that we all should do but don't really invest in, is actually tracking every single transaction that you make, how much it costs you, what you got from it, and where you actually bought it from. If you track every time you spend something, and you write it down, or you put it on a spreadsheet, or you put it on a document, or you put it somewhere that you can look at, like, okay, I've spent 50 rand on chips and a Coke and a cool drink, or I've spent 100 rand on some meals and some groceries for the week, or whichever it is. If you're tracking it down all the time, then you'll be more money conscious in general. If you're not thinking about it, then you're not preparing for it. But if it's on your mind and you're thinking about it, then it at least puts you in that mental state of, maybe I should be spending so much, or doing this, or maybe I should spend it betterly, or how can I spend it better?
I think it's being realistic with ourselves. If you're in a certain age gap, groove is groove, and you're gonna groove. That's not gonna change. So like I mentioned earlier, deferring costs, joining stockpiles for small things like meat or groceries, or even like a car stockpile or something that will give you cash, so that you know that when you spend your cash on December, you don't feel bad about it, because no one would do groove if they felt bad about it. You don't feel bad about it, and like I said, with the deferred cost, that money that you have, is your groove budget. It's budgeted for, which means that it now becomes something that you can spend. You can spend. So yeah, I think we need to be kind to ourselves.
Live below your means. Live below your means. And I think also we can educate ourselves, because I think some of us we didn't get that from our parents, but I think as we grow and we learn from our mistakes, we can educate ourselves. I would agree with question 6 that it tends to be a long month, and even more because it's a new year, and there are things that we have already planned from the 1st of January, and we would like to execute. But I think also we can exercise a little bit of patience, especially if you've saved enough, to be able to go through the month. But there's also we're tempted, I think, there's excitement as well. We're tempted to be like, you just want to be ahead and you have plans, but I think you can stick to your financial schedule. Stick to your financial schedule for the year. If you had said in Feb this is what you want to do and whatnot, and I think we can just be faithful to the financial schedule that we have created, in the new year, and not be under pressure. I know. I think I do get tempted. I do to buy things that I have not planned to buy in January. And I just need to exercise self-control all the time, that okay, we did not budget for this, how about getting it next month? And my brains can lie and be like, maybe you'll not be there, maybe you'll not be there. Also just treat yourself. I think also we need to to exercise self-control, and also to our minds as well.
It does resonate with me because I have children, and we all know that in January they need to go back to school. They need help with just a lot of things. So I would say it is a long month. It is a long month because now you have your normal day-to-day bills, and you have these extra ones which are school uniform, stationery, lunch money, all those things. So it is a long month.
It's a little hard to say that. It would have resonated with me a lot maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I was a lot less worried about what I was spending. Because then when it does hit you, it's like, oh crap, I don't have what I need for the rest of the month. It hits you quite hard. You kind of sit there and you're like, okay, I need to make another plan now. I need to either get some extra work done, or I need to try and speak to friends and family. So it hit me only once, really, really hard. And then it's been kind of, I never wanted to experience that kind of thing again. So it's hit me less and less over the next few years.
I think budgeting is always important when it comes to December, and you don't do your December budgeting in November, you do it realistically September, August, September. You budget for these things, because 100 rand, 200 rand, 300 rand goes far. If you can save it, then having that in mind. And I'm not saying walk around with December on your mind, but be cognizant that, okay, I'm going to have to prepare for school fees at some point. I'm going to have, like, school fees, for example. Let's take uniform. If you have an extra 200 rand, nothing is stopping you from going to Pep and just buying a little voucher, checkers for your stationery. Buy a little voucher, buy a little gift card, so that you know that you're not tempted to spend the money, but then also you've saved 200-300 rand off your December list. So if you start budgeting it or incorporating it in your budget around about July, August, September, then the pinch doesn't feel as heavy. And also just be kind on yourself. Be kind on yourself. Not all of us are on the same earning bracket. Not all of us have the same monetary responsibilities. Not all of us have the same constraints or backgrounds. This happens, and the only way you learn is to go through these things.
Fixed deposit. Set a fixed deposit from your income that you cannot touch until December. If your banks allow you to do that, you set a fixed deposit or a savings deposit that you essentially say, okay, I want to put in X amount per month as part of my salary and not touch it until December. That way you have a nice little lump sum that you can use to spend on that period. And also it's less painful than dealing with it after the fact.
I believe that extra income is always a good idea. It would definitely alleviate some of the pressures of December spending, but the issue is not necessarily extra income, it's really financial literacy. So even if you would have extra income, if you're not managing those funds better, then you would still be at a deficit in January.
Budget and save. Budget. Don't spend money you don't have. Don't spend on unnecessary things, and save as much as you can. Even on social media, there are people who teach us. If you're on social media, you can search anyway. Even on Google, there are a lot of things that we can do to save. Maybe you can save as low as 100 rand. Maybe save as low as 100 rand a month. You would see that by December you'd have some little change to spend. For instance, even us black people, we have this thing of buying December clothes, Christmas clothes. So one thing I've seen that has worked for my friend, she usually buys during the year. She has 2 children, so maybe she'd buy a t-shirt, jeans, for the boy, and then later on maybe buy a dress, so that by the time it's December, and then she doesn't have to spend so much money on clothes and food and whatnot. And another thing I find that has helped is those gift cards from these big supermarkets. They do have, so you put as little as 100 rands or 150. It just depends on you, on how much you want to save. And then December, that, okay, I have money for groceries, and then my children's clothes are sorted, and then your money, your salary for December, then you can maybe spend on other things, also save, so that it will take you to the next payday.
I think one way to do it is to save. Just have a December and January budget at the beginning of the year, and that you're saving literally every month, and it's something that actually we came up with as a family, and we're like, okay, we are going to spend December together, because when we're coming together, we want to eat, we want to celebrate so many things that have happened during the year. We want to celebrate Christmas together. There are a lot of brides, and celebrations that are happening, and we decided as a family, you know what, let's open an account where we can all be saving together, from January to December. And it's okay if people, they don't want to come together in that December, unfortunately, but they will not have their money back because it is in the family account. But we just encouraging ourselves to be saving, and then we're not regretting that, why did I go home in December, because I'm coming back now and I do not have money. And also I can also just encourage, like, individual saving as well, just outside of that family account. And it doesn't have to be much, it doesn't have to be much. Like 100 rand goes a long way, 50 rand goes a long way, when you're saving for December. And yeah, and even more when it's family members, it's many of us, then when that time comes, we have enough to buy the things that we need, for December celebrations.
I think just another point, another item that it was worth noting about December is we have this great initiative or tool, whatever you call it, which is a stokvel. We put money together, whether it be food or money. But now the question is, as a society, we have this available to us. What is the main purpose of a stokvel? Because it seems like we use a stokvel to, once again, splurge just for a few days. Can we not utilize the stokvel better? Whether it be food or the money, so that we give ourselves payment break or a purchasing break, so that we have leeway, so that we can start saving for the first couple of months, get some sort of momentum. But I think it's worth discussing as well, to say, for December to be okay and January to be okay, we need to be able to use the funds that we gain from the stokvel better.
Being financially or money conscious is a step-by-step thing, and it starts with habits. We all struggle with it. Every single person that I know struggles with it, especially in different sectors, especially in sectors that are a bit more run down economically over time, because you have to live every day hand to mouth. In areas where there's a lot more abundance and less cost, then it's a bit easier. I would say that to get out of that mental headspace, start with something that you can do easily that puts you in that headspace, which is why I recommend things like tracking where you spend your money, how you spend it. Even if it's as simple as writing 20 rand chips, that's it, and the day you spent it. Thinking about it allows you to consider the problem, and even when you're not thinking about it directly, your brain is unconsciously trying to figure out ways around the problem. Because the brain is a very amazing thing. It's a very diverse and flexible part of your body. It learns in a very unique way. It learns even when you're not actually consciously thinking about it. So if you put something on your mind, it will imprint on your head, just as a natural buffer. So thinking about how you spend, where you spend, why you spend, will already start the ball rolling for your head to be like, okay, I just spent 450 rand on coffee this month, and the reason I spent so much is because I bought it from, let's say, Checkers. Whereas I found the supplier who can give me the amount that I take every month for 200 rand. It's just in bulk. So if I buy bulk for the month, then I can last. Your head starts thinking of these kind of solutions to be like, where can I be a bit more money efficient?
Definitely ways to work around it. We do not have to have January blues. There are really ways. I think there's a lot of ways that banks have introduced to, to find a way of savings, of saving our money. I think there's lots that we can do, and I think this is a book that I've read, The Psychology of Money. I would recommend it, to anyone who wants to educate themselves and want to do better and manage their finances well. And I think it's easy to be caught up, honestly, and see yourself being broke. Because we are human beings and we are like constantly in search of things, and wanting to have more and make more, unfortunately.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Budget, 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 save, save, save. And spend consciously. Join us again in February for another thought-provoking conversation with Speak Your Truth Academy, where we'll also be asking other panel members to weigh in on a very important and relevant topic.